Hey, what's up, team? It's Sherman here from Geek Psychology. This video is about, can you be two types? I get this question all the time, and it's pretty difficult to explain, especially through text. So I figured I should just make a video for it, and maybe I can link people to that when this question comes up, because it's going to continue to come up all the time. And there's a reason for that. It's confusing. Not knowing which type you are is confusing. And also saying, well, I know I can do this pretty well, and I do this often too, and you kind of mix the cognitive functions, especially if you're new to learning it, and you're just like, well, I do all the feeling things. I do all the sensing things. I do all the thinking things. I do all the intuiting things. I do it all. I'm that good. And I don't mean it like condescending. It's because of not necessarily knowing exactly how the cognitive functions are working and how you are prioritizing them. Because it takes a lot of time to sit down and think about it and try to pattern recognize how you've been throughout your life and how you're approaching different things, and it's rough and it sucks. Especially because if you think that you are, let's say, an ESTP, but you also think that you might be an ESTJ, well, you're kind of confusing, how do you interact with the sensing world? How do you interact with the thinking side of things? How are you making decisions? Are you being really proactive and organizing things and making the plans to reach those final goals and close loops and things? Or does it just feel like that because you're so in the moment, you're doing all this sensing stuff and you have TI backing it up to try to make logical decisions, and which one is it? The bird knows. The bird knows which one it is. And so it gets confusing. I understand that. And so hopefully this video will give you some ideas about that, some reasoning behind why you can't be two types or three types or four types, and a little bit on how you can figure out which one you are. Really though, I'm going to say right now, I can see him. The bird's watching me. He's staring at me. Yeah, that's right. The thing that you can do is just continue to put time and effort and energy and grit and passion into understanding yourself and understanding the cognitive functions and how they're coming about. But I'm going to give you a couple little other points later on in the video. So first, let's talk about what the psyche needs to be full, to be complete, what you need to be a full, complete human. You need a way of understanding the outer world, the objective world. You need a way of understanding the subjective, introverted side of things, your personal experiences. You need a way to gather information, to learn about things, to perceive the world. And this could be sensing or intuiting. So it could be concrete, tangible, or it could be speculative and ideational. Or also, I guess from there, you need a way of making decisions, a way of organizing the world. And that can be through feeling, the kind of personal, humanistic, human-centric approach to things, or it could be through thinking, which is a more detached and logical perspective on it. Feelers think and thinkers feel, and sensors intuit and intuitives sense, but you need a way of doing all of those, and the most efficient, effective way of dealing with that is to organize the psyche as an ESTP. We'll just go back to ESTP for whatever reason. You have extroverted sensing as your dominant function. So you're covering extroversion and you're covering perceiving, sensing. So you have a way of learning and you have a way of dealing with the outer world. Cool. So what's the most logical next step? Well, you need a way of dealing with the subjective, personal side of things, and then you need a way to make decisions. And so you have introverted thinking, SETI, extroverted sensing, introverted thinking. Boom, ESTP. With that, you basically cover what you need to be a complete human being. I guess we did ESTJ before. So you have extroverted thinking as the dominant function. You have a way of extroverting, dealing with the objective world, and making decisions. TE, extroverted thinking. Good. And then for the auxiliary function, introverted sensing, you're covering the internal realm of things too. The psyche has a nice way of organizing and balancing things. If your brain is always debating two different approaches to something, like, do I listen to my personal feelings on things, my personal values and beliefs to make decisions, or do I look at the social atmosphere and see what is to be expected of my behaviors and other people's behaviors to understand how to make the appropriate decision? Which is the dominant approach to reality? Is it external? Is it internal? Which is more important? Which is more valuable? Which should I listen to? When that voice is speaking, which one is it that I'm supposed to pay attention to? If you're constantly searching for that, wow, that sucks. You know, you have no stable way of interacting with the world. And so this is going to get a little deep, maybe a little jargon heavy, but let's say that you're debating, am I an INFP or an INFJ? So that means that you don't know what your dominant approach to the world is. Is it introverted feeling? Is it your personal values? Is that what you're listening to? You're trying to make assessments, value-based assessments on things, decisions? Or are you trying to track this speculative information and see where things are going 10 years into the future and all this other stuff? Like, which one is it? We all need to figure out which one we are, and we need to honor that wiring, honor what our psyche is trying to do, and specialize in those. And that comes through awareness, that comes through understanding the cognitive functions and how you've existed so far in your life and what you're supposed to do from there in terms of living to your strengths, to specialize, to individuate yourself and become who you're meant to be. And not knowing, bouncing back, am I an INFP or an INFJ? No, I'm both. It slows down that process a lot, I think. It doesn't mean that an INFP doesn't use introverted intuition or extroverted feeling. It just means that they come out in different ways and they're not the preferred style. And knowing your dominant function can be difficult because it's an unconscious competence. So I'm good at this, but this is how I think everybody exists. But really, it's just too close. You can't even see that it's something that you do as kind of a superpower that other people don't do and don't rely on as much. And so what can you do? How can you figure it out? Well, I think the easiest way is to go back to that MBTI code, the simplified 4-letter code, and look at perceiving or judging. And look at what they're trying to do. Just keep it within the code. Unless you really know your cognitive functions, then you probably have a better idea of which your type is, right? But think about, if you are a judger, if you're an INFJ, then really you're trying to organize the outer world. You're trying to put the outer world into containers of sorts so that you have the time to explore your mind and to let it go where it wants to go. You have the freedom of movement within your head, and you can let your thoughts go out where they're trying to go because things are organized in the outer world. You know how people are supposed to react and interact in situations, and you can deal with that if you're an INFJ because the outer world is organized. But if you're a perceiver, INFP, then you're actually trying to make decisions. You're making value assessments as your flow state. And it might not feel like you're making decisions because, not many people would think of INFPs as being like the decision makers, right? But actually, if you think about it, if you go into your mind and you go over how you've interacted with things, you probably make a lot of value assessments, a lot of judgments. You're trying to organize the inner world and put those puzzle pieces together so that you have the freedom of dealing with what comes at you in the moment without slowing down, without faltering. Like, this weird thing happened. Okay, I'm going to interact with that as it happens. So really think about, where are you trying to organize the world, and where are you trying to let things just go a little bit more chaotically, a little bit more freestyle. Let them flow as they're going to flow so that you can interact with it. I think that is the best way that I can cover it in this video on how you can kind of parse that a little bit and figure out which one you are. And yes, there are other complications when you're trying to figure out your type. You know, some people are confused with like extrovert or introvert, you know, sensor and intuitive. But I think a lot of the problems, the big questions that people bring to me, deal with judging or perceiving. Which one is the dominant function? So I hope it helped. And anybody that's been watching this video, you have your ideas, maybe you went through something similar to this, can you please comment down below and let other people know, what was that key? What was like the key that gave you the ability to open up the treasure chest and understand who you are? Like, what was the thing that specifically made it so that you're able to figure out your type? It doesn't have to be perceiving or judging. That just happened to be what I focus more on in this video. But like, what was there, an insight? Was there an experience? What was it? Was there a video? If somebody else's video, please share that. I'll post it up on the top. Like, we'll make sure that people are able to figure out their type so that we can have this more supportive, good world and everybody's working together to bring out their strengths and actually specialize and focus on doing what they're supposed to do. Don't think that you're a rogue when really you're supposed to be a healer. Don't be a warrior trying to throw fireballs. Like, specialize in what you're good at. Do what you gotta do. Do your thing right, because that's what the world needs. It doesn't need people that are just dabbling in a bunch of things. It needs somebody who's really good at what they're good at, and they're able to share that with the world. And so that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Keep up the lifelong questing. Thank you very much, patrons. Y'all are awesome. Very supportive, very helpful. Always keeps me going. And thank you everybody else for liking, subscribing, and sharing this content so that it helps other people too. All right, peace.